Something big is being talked about behind the scenes right now. And if you rely on Social Security, SSI, or SSDI, what's coming next could quietly affect your financial future in ways most people aren't prepared for. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to U.S. Pension Insight. I'm Michael Harris. Today, we need to talk carefully, calmly, and clearly because there's a lot of noise right now. And when money is involved, especially money people depend on to survive, misinformation spreads fast. What I want to do today is slow everything down and walk through what's really happening, what's being discussed, and why so many people are suddenly paying attention again. You may have heard people talking about $2,000 payments. You may have seen headlines, social media posts, or short clips claiming that checks are coming, that timelines are set, or that something big has already been approved. And if you're feeling confused or unsure what to believe, you're not alone. A lot of people are hearing pieces of the story without the full picture. What's important right now is understanding why this conversation has resurfaced, who it affects, and what is actually taking place behind the scenes. Because this isn't just noise. There is real movement happening, but it's not as simple or as immediate as some posts make it seem. Let's start with the big picture. Across the country, millions of Americans are feeling financial pressure in ways they didn't expect just a few years ago. Prices are higher, essentials cost more, and for people living on fixed incomes, even small increases can feel overwhelming. Groceries, utilities, insurance, medical care, these expenses don't wait, and they don't pause just because income stays the same. For many seniors, SSDI recipients, and SSI beneficiaries, budgeting has become a balancing act that feels harder every month. And when people feel that pressure, they start paying close attention to anything that sounds like relief. That's why this conversation matters. Behind the scenes, policymakers have been discussing ways to address the strain many Americans are feeling. Some of these conversations are public, others happen quietly. But what's important to understand is that this isn't random chatter. It's rooted in economic shifts that have been building for years. Over time, the cost of living has risen faster than many incomes. Even with adjustments and increases, people often find that their dollars simply don't stretch the way they used to. That reality has pushed leaders to reconsider how support is structured, especially for older Americans and those living on fixed incomes. Now, here's where things start to get interesting. Recently, there's been renewed discussion around using revenue from tariffs to support American households. Tariffs generate income for the government, and when that income grows, it opens the door for conversations about redistribution. Not in theory, but in practice. This idea has gained traction because it connects real economic activity with direct relief. This is where people start to hear numbers being mentioned, large numbers. And when numbers are mentioned, expectations naturally follow. But before we talk about what those numbers mean, it's important to understand why this idea is being discussed now and not years ago. Over the past several years, purchasing power has declined. That means the same dollar simply doesn't go as far. While some groups have seen wage increases, many others have not. For retirees and those on fixed incomes, the gap is especially noticeable. Even modest expenses can throw an entire budget off balance. This isn't about luxury spending, it's about groceries, rent, transportation, and medical care. When those costs rise faster than income, something has to give. That's why policymakers are paying closer attention to the strain people are under. They're hearing it from constituents. They're seeing it in economic data, and they know that frustration is growing. Now, this is where expectations need to be managed carefully. There has been discussion about potential payments designed to help offset this financial pressure. The idea is not about creating something permanent, and it's not about replacing existing benefits. It's about relief, temporary support meant to help stabilize households that are feeling squeezed. But here's the part many people miss. Conversations and intentions do not equal finalized plans. Right now, what's happening is exploration, analysis, debate. Numbers are being run, scenarios are being evaluated. Nothing is automatic and nothing is guaranteed. And this is exactly where confusion tends to start. Some people hear that leaders are considering something and interpret that as it's happening. Others hear a figure mentioned and assume it's a promise. Neither of those interpretations is accurate. The process takes time, and it involves multiple layers of approval. To understand why, you have to look at how decisions like this are actually made. Even when there is support from leadership, funding must be identified. Budgets must be balanced. Legal authority must be established. And most importantly, Congress must agree. That means proposals go through committees, debates, revisions, and votes. It's not fast, and it's rarely simple. At the same time, political timing matters. When elections approach, every major financial decision is viewed through a strategic lens. Lawmakers consider not just what is helpful, but how it will be perceived by voters. That reality influences when and how proposals move forward. This doesn't mean nothing will happen. It means things move carefully. Now, let's talk about the number that's getting so much attention. You've probably heard people mention a $2,000 amount. That figure didn't come out of nowhere. It's tied to calculations about how much purchasing power households have lost over recent years. Economists have looked at rising costs and compared them to income changes, and the gap comes out to roughly that amount for many families. In simple terms, it represents what many households would need just to feel like they're back where they started. But here's the key part most people miss. Just because that number is being discussed doesn't mean everyone would receive it. It doesn't mean it would happen all at once. And it doesn't mean it would look the same for every household. If something does move forward, it would almost certainly be targeted. That means eligibility requirements, income thresholds, and prioritization of those most impacted. Seniors, people with disabilities, and households with limited income would likely be at the center of that discussion. And that's intentional because the goal isn't to send money everywhere. The goal is to stabilize the people who are struggling the most. Another important piece of this puzzle is funding. While tariff revenue has increased, it still may not be enough to support a broad program without adjustments. That's why discussions include narrowing eligibility or adjusting distribution methods. It's also why timelines matter. If additional revenue continues to grow, options expand, If it slows down, plans may need to be scaled back. This is where patience becomes important. Nothing is final until legislation is passed and signed. Until then, everything remains in motion. That doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means decisions are being shaped carefully, often behind closed doors. For people watching from home, that waiting period can be frustrating, but it's also a sign that discussions are serious, not rushed. Now let's talk about what this means for you personally. If you're living on a fixed income, the most important thing right now is awareness, not panic, not fear. Awareness. Understanding that discussions are happening allows you to stay informed and prepared without reacting to every headline. It also means being cautious about misinformation. If you see claims that payments are guaranteed, automatic, or already approved, take a step back. Reliable information comes from official statements, not speculation. Another important point is this. Even if a program moves forward, it may not look exactly like early discussions. Amounts could change, eligibility could narrow, timing could shift. That's normal in this kind of process. What matters most is staying grounded and informed. You should also remember that financial stability isn't built on one-time payments alone. While extra support can help, long-term stability comes from understanding your benefits, knowing your options, and making informed decisions. That's why conversations like this matter. They help cut through the noise and give you a clearer picture of what's actually happening. As things develop, I'll continue to walk through updates step by step, without exaggeration and without fear-based messaging. My goal is to help you understand what's real, what's possible, and what's still uncertain. Before we wrap up, let me say this clearly. Your concerns are valid. Your questions matter, and you deserve transparency when it comes to policies that affect your life and your financial security. If you found this helpful, consider sharing it with someone who might be feeling confused or overwhelmed right now. Sometimes just having clear information can make a big difference. Thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate you being here, and I'll continue to bring you updates as soon as they become available. I'm Michael Harris, and this is U.S. Pension Insight.